All right. It is a beautiful day for some construction here in Canarsie. I know Toniel feels that. I want to welcome everyone and especially thank Toniel Jobidi, who has lived in this house for more than 10 years, for welcoming us and allowing us to show everyone in this city the progress that's finally happening here that is long overdue, that she deserves, that so many of her neighbors deserve, and is finally happening. This, you won't be able to see this well, but we will get it around to all the members of the press. This is a picture of this street right after Sandy hit. As you can see, water up to the level of the hood of the car here in this picture. Houses here sustained a huge amount of damage. The basements, you can see how the driveways sloped downward. The basements got hit very hard, and well beyond that, roofs and so many other parts of the buildings hit hard. And Toniel had a home that was hit very hard. She lived in this house, I said, for more than 10 years. This is what every homeowner has a deep fear of. You know, you put so much time, so much investment into your home, and God forbid that day comes when something catastrophic happens. Toniel is someone who not only had a home to worry about, she has a very demanding job. She works for New York State, managing a group home for people with mental disabilities. She has her hands full with her work. So she found that she had suddenly a crisis on her hands with the home in such disarray. And so in the weeks and months after, she did what any citizen would do. She reached out for the work she deserved, for the help she deserved. She reached out for the help she deserved in rebuilding her home. And she believed that that help would be forthcoming. But it wasn't. The efforts that were supposed to be in place to help homeowners certainly weren't working at that point. So Toniel emptied out her savings account, maxed out her credit cards, did everything she could to get herself back on her feet. And she was intrepid about it. She kept working hard no matter whether the government helped her or not. She kept doing all she could do. And she signed up for the Build It Back program as soon as it was announced. She heard lots of promises and pledges, but after a year and a half, she was still going it alone. And I'll just say the obvious, that's unacceptable. No citizen, no homeowner should be treated that way. Well, I'm pleased to say that that changed in recent months. And finally, the Build It Back program is working for Toniel, and you can see with your own eyes the progress being made. The work on the roof right now and other parts of the building that should be finished very soon, we're proud to say. And Toniel got a reimbursement check from the city for the work that she had paid for out of pocket. And I want to just say, I want to really thank her for being really a model citizen, no matter what was thrown at her, standing up for herself, her family, her community, and being as good as we could ask any New Yorker to be in the face of crisis. Now it's time the city government responding in kind, and I'm thrilled to say that this is an example today of the city government being as good as the people of New York City and answering Toniel's needs. Let's thank her for being a part of this today and for welcoming us. And the folks who made it possible, I'm thrilled to be here to make this announcement and use this example of the kind of progress we've made, but the folks who've done this hard work, Bill Goldstein, my senior advisor for recovery, resiliency, and infrastructure, Amy Peterson, who's done an outstanding job leading our housing recovery office, which has been on the front line of these efforts to help individual homeowners, and Maria Torres Springer, our Commissioner for Small Business Services, who's doing great work with the small business community as small businesses are still struggling in some cases to get back on their feet. You'll be hearing from our elected officials in a few moments. I want to thank them all for being here. Borough President Eric Adams, Assemblymember Nick Perry, Senator John Sampson, Councilmember Mark Traeger, Councilmember Alan Maisel, and Councilmember Eric Ulrich. Toniel waited for a long time to hear a beautiful sound, the sound of hammers knocking on nails and saws going through wood and all the things we associate with repairs being made and people getting back on their feet. And I'm proud to say that that's happening now all over the areas affected by Sandy. Since January 1st, since we took office, construction has started on 132 rebuilding projects, including 30 that are now complete. So not only are we seeing large numbers and growing numbers of construction starts, we finally have something in the year 2014 that we never saw in the year 2013, completed homes. People whose lives are whole again because the City of New York did the right thing and helped them out. We've also been sending out reimbursement checks to so many deserving homeowners who've been waiting. 397 reimbursement checks totaling over $6.37 million have been sent out. Many more coming soon. We're very much on track to reach the goals that we laid out 3 months ago. 500 construction starts by Labor Day, 500 reimbursement checks by Labor Day. I just want to remind you, the day we were out in Staten Island, we issued this report of what the game plan was. And we said out loud, and we think it's very important to hold ourselves accountable, that the people know what our goals are and they hold us accountable. We said 500 construction starts, 500 reimbursement checks by Labor Day. We are going to keep that promise and work hard to go on from there and get more and more people the help they deserve. We are all gratified, especially this fantastic team working on the relief and recovery efforts. We were all very gratified when the Staten Island Advance said a few days ago, July 3rd, in their editorial, now there are finally signs of progress. People all over the city are finally seeing signs of progress. Our job is to speed that up every single day so more and more people have that experience. The city's changed the approach to Build It Back in so many ways. It wasn't just about getting great new leaders, and we have really competent, focused, energetic leaders. It's also making the process simpler and more streamlined so that it can work for everyone. We've expanded eligibility so every applicant can move forward. There's no question now, if you're affected by Sandy and you are eligible, we're going to move your application forward regardless of income. We've streamlined the process to get construction started, made it a lot simpler to get to the first moment when a hammer hits the nail, and also we made it a lot simpler to get checks in the hands of homeowners. We provide direct relief, financial relief to homeowners. For example, property tax relief and relief on water bills. And we've made the hiring of local residents on rebuilding projects a priority. 4 of the people working on Tonielle's home are from Sandy-impacted neighborhoods. So we've proven that you can reach a lot of people in need, get the job done well and efficiently, and get employment opportunities for people who are affected by Sandy all at the same time. We know there's still a lot to do, and we're therefore making a series of additional changes and improvements in the effort. The city is now directly managing all the Build It Back centers. So every one of those centers is being held to a single high standard, customer service focused. People come in, they get answers, they get action. That's what we're doing in these centers. We're providing more types of services and programs at each center. We're working closely with U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, improving the Hurricane Sandy business loan and grant program. Again, thanks to Maria for her great work in helping small business owners. We're providing larger grants to eligible businesses and making the approval guidelines more flexible. We know that small businesses are the engines of economic opportunity, of employment in so many of our neighborhoods. They're also key sources of civic pride and civic stability. We want to make sure our small business owners are supported as they fully recover. Now, today, we think about getting the job done for people who still have real needs, and we think about, in the process, making our neighborhoods more resilient, whether it's Canarsie or so many of the other neighborhoods that were affected. The job is to build back, build better, and make us more resilient for the future. With that, I'd like us to hear from a woman who has done absolutely an outstanding job, and I've heard it all over the city. People appreciate deeply. Amy Peterson comes out to the neighborhood, spends time with residents, listens carefully, and acts on what she hears. She is tireless, and she has done an extraordinary job on this recovery effort. Welcome, Amy Peterson.
Hello, everyone. This is a very exciting day for us. I started about 3.5 months ago when we issued the report 3 months ago today. And in that time, I've been out in the communities like Canarsie and communities in Queens and Staten Island, and hearing about the struggles of all of the homeowners who've been trying to deal with the Build It Back system for the last year and been trying to really put in place the things that will get us to the next step. This is a big ship, that's what I like to say, that we're really trying to turn so that everyone can continue to move forward, but move in the direction that they want to move. A lot of people were getting to the point where they were having an option offered to them, and they were frustrated with the choices that were being given to them. It was a very restrictive process, a very complicated process, and it was hard to move people to the point that Tanyella is at today. We have really turned it around and changed it from a system of, no, you can't do this for this reason, for this HUD reason, or this buildings reason, or this wetlands reason, to a system of, yes, we can move you forward. And we made a commitment to hit 500 construction starts in 500 checks, and we're well on our way to that commitment. We have over 650 projects that have actually gotten into design. That will help us certainly get to our 500 construction starts. And one of the numbers that I think is most important is at the beginning of this year, maybe 100 people had said, I know what Build It Back is going to give me, and I agree that that is what I want. Now over 2,500 people have made that selection. And ensuring that people get the service they need. We're bringing design and construction professionals into the centers so they can answer complicated questions about roof repair and elevation and rebuild. And we're also taking our workers out into the communities and working directly with the local officials who have all been incredibly supportive in our efforts so that people don't have to come all the way to the center. People can be in a place where they know the people that they're working with and get the answers that they want. So we're here today to show some progress and let you know that we're well on our way to our 500 goal, and that the people who've applied for Build It Back program should really have some hope that we're coming to help them. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And Amy, let's always remember the people who do the work. They're a damn good-looking group there on that house. Let's give a round of applause to these hard-working folks. Looks like a Build It Back calendar. Okay, they've got the perfect look there. As Amy said, we have had tremendous support and cooperation from elected officials. We're now providing a lot of services with them out of their district offices and all their mobile and outreach efforts. And that partnership has been incredibly helpful. We want people to know what their rights are. We want people to know the help that they can get. We want to get it to them quickly. So all the elected officials up here have been a part of that. I want to bring each of them up so they can all say a few brief words about their experience. Starting with our president, I'm a proud Brooklynite. I want to thank Borough President Adams, who's really been on the front line of getting people help they need. Borough President Eric Adams.
Thank you. Thank you. And really want to really just thank the electeds here. I remember the day after the storm, Senator Sampson and I walking this block, and we moved from many for sale signs to now we have signs of progress. Something that's more important than the construction team is a team of governmental officials who are all on the same plan. We seem to have hit a roadblock under the previous administration, and now we're moving past that roadblock, and we're allowing homeowners and families to give back. The only thing worse than a terrible storm is a flood of bureaucracy that prevents you from returning and making you whole again. And now we're moving these families out of the storm, out of the flood of bureaucracy, moving towards rebuilding a home, building it back. This administration is saying we have your back, and combined with the families, the communities, as well as our local electeds, we're going to return homeowners to their homes. Congratulations to you. You're doing a great job as an employee for our city, and now we're going to do a great job and get you back in your home. Thank you very much.
Eric Adams is no stranger to the soundbite. I think you've given us a new slogan. We have your back at Build It Back. I like that. Councilmember Mark Traeger has been on the front line as chair of the Council's Committee on Recovery and Resiliency. He knows a lot from his own community of what people have gone through, but he's been a forceful citywide advocate for so many people still in need and a great partner in this work. Chair Mark Traeger.
Yeah, I have to lower the microphone after the mayor.
Just a little.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, my colleagues in government, and most importantly, the residents here and the victims of Superstorm Sandy. I want to first start off by thanking Mayor de Blasio for pledging to take ownership of this recovery, because this recovery requires real leadership. It also, Sandy was an unprecedented storm, and it's going to require an unprecedented amount of cooperation from all levels of government, from federal, state, to local. And to put this into context, and when we first started, this year, there are thousands of victims, thousands of small businesses impacted, and very few people were helped. And this mayor put together a team of people who have been incredibly responsive. And I want to publicly again thank Amy Peterson, Bill Goldstein, who have been very responsive to the concerns of many of the impacted communities and the residents. And I also want to acknowledge the council's role. City Council has put together, led by Speaker Mark Viverito, a new committee, which I have the honor of chairing. And many of my colleagues from the impacted areas have been very helpful with very important input, where we've had some pretty intense oversight hearings, and many of these announcements and recommendations are a result of the discussions that we've had, fruitful discussions that we've had at our 7 to 8 hour hearings, where Amy Peterson stayed the entire duration. Commissioner Springer stayed the entire duration, Bill Goldstein. They have listened. They have really made it a point to stay the entire time and to listen to people's concerns and to hear our input and feedback. So I want to thank the mayor for pledging. I want to thank the mayor for showing us signs of progress. And we're not going to stop working until every storm victim gets the help that they need and every community is made whole again. But today, we are finally really starting to see evidence and signs of progress. People have heard the term progress before, but now we're starting to feel it. Thank you, Mayor de Blasio.
Thank you. Now I want to bring up the elected officials who represent this community and do it with great energy and pride. First, Councilmember Alan Maisel.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, let me thank all my colleagues and the Build It Back people who are here today. But I want to especially thank the mayor for coming to Canarsie. Canarsie is one of those communities that over the last year and a half, we really felt neglected by the previous administration. Nothing seemed to be happening in Canarsie, and part of it has to do with the way Canarsie was constructed. We have nice houses, but you couldn't go past the facade of the houses to see the damage that was done inside the houses, the basements, the huge toil that had to be put in to get everybody right. And unfortunately, the insurance companies didn't cooperate. They did not have our backs. The fact is that people have been struggling on their own. My office, as well as others, John Sampson, Nick Perry, we have tried very, very hard, but the bureaucracy was overwhelming. And now, for the first time, as you have heard, we're overcoming that. So I'm really grateful that you're here, Mr. Mayor, and I hope the next time you're here, we can say this is all done, everybody is whole, we're all happy, and we can continue on with our lives without any more aggravation. So, and again, let me just thank Amy Peterson and Bill Goldstein and all the Build It Back people. You should also know my office is a Build It Back, what would you call it? A satellite. 2 days a week, Tuesdays and Thursdays from 9 to 5. You can come to my office. You don't have to go to Coney Island or the city. You can go to my office 2424. No. Let them keep the business in the neighborhood. 2424 Ralph Avenue between Avenue N and Mill Lane. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Senator John Sampson.
Thank you very much, Mayor. For every setback, there's the comeback. And now we're seeing the comeback here in this community. And the reason we're seeing the comeback is because we have an administration who understands the struggles of the middle class, the working class, and the poor. And that's the difference. When you understand where the trials and tribulations people are going through, you understand that you have to be there for them. This is what we call government at work. There's nothing wrong with partnering with government, especially when you have an administration who understands the struggles of the people. So I want to thank the mayor and his administration for fine work. And as I said before, for every setback, there was a comeback, and now we're experiencing the comeback here in Canarsie. Thank you very much, Mayor.
Thank you. Thank you. Assemblymember Nick Perry.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and welcome to Canarsie. just want you to keep it in your memory for the next 4 years of your administration, that this is a neighborhood that went against the assemblyman and voted overwhelmingly for you. And so this is your area. That's right. And Canarsie went big time for de Blasio in the last election. So the mayor is delivering on some of his promises in the assembly. We want to work with him to make sure that he's known as the mayor who kept his word. Now, we're very grateful for your vision and your efforts, taking charge of the Build Back program and make it, reshape it so it's begin to work for the people. Build Back is not going to be complete until we put together a major capital reconstruction program to fix the sewers in Canarsie. Because every time that the rain falls, my constituents in Canarsie have a revisit of Sandy. Sandy isn't here in name, but every time that the rain falls and the streets fill with water, so many basements are flooded. And until we fix those sewers, we're always going to have Sandy visiting us in some shape or the other. And we are trusting that this mayor, this administration is going to get all of the agencies together and put together that program that's going to bring us real relief and real build back from Canarsie by fixing our sewers. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, and we appreciate your work.
Thank you. And in the spirit of bipartisanship, and even including people from Queens.
That's right.
Councilmember Eric Ulrich.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. And we're going in alphabetical order, clearly, today as well. Yesterday, I received some of the best news that I've heard in a very long time from my very good friend Jerry Romsky and the folks at Auburn by the Sea. Work was finally beginning on rebuilding a home for my constituents in Broad Channel that have been without a home since Hurricane Sandy. And for them, and for the folks behind me, and for so many other families now throughout the city who were displaced by the storm, who lost their homes but were still trying to keep their dignity. There is a light at the end of the tunnel, and there is hope, and there is help, and help has arrived in the form of Build It Back and the renewed vigor in the new administration into making this program work. The day when every person who was hit hard by Hurricane Sandy can be fully restored and made whole again. That day cannot come soon enough, and we have a tremendous amount of work still to do, but I am confident that working with Amy Peterson, Bill, both Bills, I should say, that work will get done. They made a promise, they're going to keep that promise, and we are going to see people to the finish line. We're going to get them back in their homes. So thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for everything that you're doing to help victims of Hurricane Sandy, and thank you all for being here today. Thank you.
Just a few words in Spanish, and then we're going to do on-topic questions followed by off-topic questions. En los últimos meses hemos dado pasos importantes en los esfuerzos de recuperación del huracán Sandy. Hemos reconstruido casas, enviado cheques de reembolso y generado empleos para trabajadores locales. Todavía tenemos mucho trabajo por hacer y estamos comprometidos a completar esta labor. With that, on topic first.
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, most of the money in the final round of HUD funding was directed to housing recovery, but most of the initiatives in former Mayor Bloomberg's SIRR report, the Special Initiative for Resiliency and Rebuilding, are still unfunded. Do you think there are alternative sources of funding for those that can be found, or is that just not as much of a priority?
Well, I would say first and foremost we have to get homeowners and our citizens back on their feet. We obviously had work to do as well in public housing and multifamily housing to get people back on their feet and immediately protect against upcoming storms. So I think there's a sense of the first priority. But that being said, a lot of work is happening all over the city on resiliency already. Our colleagues, the Army Corps engineers, are doing incredible work already, for example, in the Rockaways. A lot of additional projects are planned for Brooklyn, for Queens, for Staten Island from the Army Corps. You know we had the announcement with U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development recently. Not only the additional funding that will help in the recovery efforts, but also additional funding for new designs and new implementation of safeguards for the future. So there's a host of things happening from the Army Corps, a host of things that will be funded by HUD, and other opportunities thereafter to do more resiliency work. So I think the work of resiliency will go on for many years. I want everyone to be perfectly clear about that. It's long-term, important work. It will be constant. It will take many forms, and Bill Goldstein can chime in and give some additional points after I finish. But I think, and I also would argue that resiliency is something we will work on effectively permanently, because we know what climate change means, and we are one of the great coastal cities of the world, so this will be something we will be working on every day. We've obviously been changing building codes, changing our approach to construction, changing where we locate generators, et cetera. But what's already in the pipeline, from HUD, from the Army Corps, from the state, is very, very substantial and is going to have a huge impact on resiliency in the city. Bill, why don't you chime in?
Yeah. We have a program, it's really a $20 billion program, which I think was, you were referring to the SIR report. About 60% of that program is now funded. But as the mayor said, these projects, many of them will be a long term, but we've already started on many of them, as he noted, the rebuild by design work on the Lower East Side. We've already got the agencies beginning the preliminary design work and planning work and community outreach work to get those going. So I think it's a long-term program. We have about 60% of the funding, and some of the work's already underway.
Mayor, are you satisfied with the pace that the city is spending the federal money for Sandy recovery? I ask because city records show that only a small fraction of the money that was given after the storm has been spent so far on businesses and homes.
Yeah, up until January 1st, no, I was not satisfied at all, and I don't understand it, honestly. But since January 1st, we're on the right track. You've heard the updates I've given along the way of reimbursements and construction starts. I know my friends in the press corps are good at math, and so you'll notice how the pace has sped up intensely in recent weeks. You're going to see these numbers continue to grow quickly. And Amy and Bill have done an extraordinary job of setting up a system that will actually produce more and more with every passing month. So we feel very good that money is going to be utilized quickly and well. Let's face it, we had a year and a half where a lot more could have been done, but now you're going to see a very, very fast pace and a lot of people getting the repairs and the rebuild that they need. Yep.
On that topic, you're less than halfway to the 500 goal of construction starts. So are you still confident you'll be able to meet that by Labor Day? Yep. And what's going to happen? How are you going to speed that along?
I'll start and Amy will join in. We are absolutely confident that we will meet that goal. A lot of energy is put into it. A lot of personnel is being put into it. But the pace has sped up with every passing week. And obviously now we're in the perfect time of year for construction, and we're going to take full advantage of it.
Yeah, so the way you get to a construction start is an owner says that they agree and they want to move forward with a construction project, and then you get into design. So we have 2,500 people who've said, I want to move forward with a project, and we've got 653 that are in design. Every week we get more and more agreements signed between designers, contractors, and homeowners, and we move these projects forward. We're very confident we're going to get to the 500 goal.
Mr. Mayor, Controller Stringer released a report just prior to this press conference about lack of oversight at the Department of Homeland Services with some of their contractors relating to Sandy. What is the city doing to prevent such instances of occurring proactively and also retroactively to look at spending that may have been mismanaged before?
Look, I think it's clear that a number of mistakes were made after Sandy. Also, some good things were done after Sandy. It's not one or another, but clearly we appreciate the Comptroller's report. We think there's some important ideas in it, a number of which actually the city had already been starting to act on independently. So we are and have been already making changes at DHS, and we think we'll be in a much better position in the future. Everyone, Bill, Amy, everyone in the administration is focused on making sure that whatever money we spent is used effectively and the taxpayers are treated fairly. So I would simply say I think a lot of reforms have already happened and more will be underway, and we feel good about the ability to manage the money going forward.
Thank you. So at this point, do you feel that you have hit upon the right formula for this program, or are there further issues further questions, more changes you want to make?
We've got the right formula, but it's a formula we're going to keep perfecting. That's why, again, you've seen the increase in the rate here over the last few weeks, because we're finding ways literally every week to speed up the process and simplify the process. And what we also are finding is a lot of homeowners, I think Tonielle's a good example, went through such a difficult process before. A lot of them had given up or didn't know what they were supposed to do to access the help. We've now created a situation where it's customer friendly, it's respectful of the homeowner, so people are having a much easier time. Like, now they know you've got to answer these questions, you've got to make this choice, here's where you go, here's who you talk to, bang, we're done, now we're going to repairs. You're going to see, therefore, a lot more activity on the ground because the process is getting simpler all the time, and homeowners are gaining more confidence in it. So we think we've got the right formula, and we'll keep working to always improve it.
What's the bottom line number on the number of homes that were impacted by Sandy? And can you give a figure or a time when you think you'll be able to actually reach and fix all those homes? Is there like...
I'll start, and Bill and Amy can jump in. Look, many thousands of homeowners were affected. Now, some, thank God, were able to get the help they needed from insurance, from FEMA, from other sources. Some, thank God, did not experience major damage. But we know from the level of applications that there's still thousands of people who need help, and we're going to get the help to them. Most need repairs, relatively manageable scale of repairs. They need the roof fixed or some other discrete pieces. That's the biggest category of people. Many fewer need a full rebuild. The number of people who need a full rebuild is in the hundreds, thank God. But we have a lot of work to do. We want to get a lot done this year, and we're going to have more to say around Labor Day when we complete this first segment. We're going to set a new public standard thereafter. So when we get to Labor Day, we'll announce the results on this first pledge, and we'll make a new pledge in terms of construction starts and reimbursement checks. Either of you want to add?
Yeah, we know that we have around 20,000 people who've applied for our program, and we're sure that there's about 15,000 homes that we need to work on, the majority of them being repairs. There's a large number of homes that need to be elevated, and then there's about 750 that we're looking to rebuild. So we're currently putting the plan together to show how quickly we can get that work done.
About years, probably.
Well, let me address that. We have a simple view of this. We want to get the most done we can in 2014. We are, 2014 going in, and we want to then go into 2015. So let me make it clear. We are right now working on our 2014 goal for Labor Day. We will come up on Labor Day with another goal for the remainder of 2014, and then after that we'll be able to project what has to get done in 2015. We want to get the vast majority of the work done this year and next year. So we'll have very specific updates for you, but I think the most important point to make, and you can see it here, I'm going to turn to Tonielle. You don't have to speak publicly, but I'm just going to ask you. You had the roof being done. What else is being done here? Crawl space. Anything else? Boiler room. Okay. Tonielle's example is a good one. So she had 3 discrete things that had to be fixed. We are hopeful this will be done in the next week or 2. And then the crews go on to the next one, and the next one, and the next one. So the repairs, in many cases, can be done very quickly, weeks for a house, and then go on to the next one. The rebuilds, by definition, are the toughest, but again, the total universe of homeowners who have applied for a full rebuild in the entire city of New York is 750, so thank God that is a manageable number, and we're going to put a lot of resources into getting that done quickly. On topic, yes?
To that, what's the breakdown of the 132 between full rebuilds and just doing repairs?
Right now, the majority are the repairs. We just have had a few new closings, which is what the council member referred to. All of the rebuilds and elevations go through a much more complicated permitting process, but we're starting to see those through, and we have our first elevation scheduled for the beginning of August, and we're having more closings on the rebuilds, which is the construction start for rebuilds on a daily basis.
Let me also add, the folks who are doing the work, the contractors who we're depending on, rightfully have raised concerns about streamlining the permitting process, because typical work being done in New York City, one of the things that delays it is permits needed from city agencies. Bill and Amy have done a fantastic job of clearing that out, of de-bureaucratizing the process, and we've said to every city agency, when it comes to a homeowner affected by Sandy, the answer is yes, get out of the way, make it happen, make sure it's safe, make sure it is legally appropriate, but move the ball, and that's what we're seeing from our agencies. On topic. Yes.
Looking ahead to, should there be another storm like this, have you made any deep changes in the city's management of the emergency management side of responding to a crisis like this?
Well, we went through an exercise just a couple of days ago at OEM to look at what a coastal storm scenario would mean today, and to coordinate with all the pertinent city and state agencies. A very productive exercise. I think meeting our OEM commissioner, Joe Esposito, who is extraordinarily experienced at dealing with different crises in New York City, Commissioner Bratt and Commissioner Nigro, and all of Commissioner Bassett at Health, all of the different agencies with our state partners. We've learned the lessons of Sandy. We're going to be in an aggressive and proactive stance if we see something coming. Now, one thing I learned, I've known it a bit, but I learned it even more the other day, the Weather Service, the National Weather Service, literally can tell us a week or two or even more in some cases out that they see storm systems developing even a continent away, or an ocean away, and they can give us a sense that something may be coming. So the planning process starts weeks in advance now. The other thing is that we learned from Sandy some of the vulnerabilities that have been acted on. A lot of generators have been moved out of basements and to upper floors in various healthcare facilities, for example. So we are entirely ready. I think the people are more ready, too. I hope and pray I never have to stand before you and say that we are evacuating an area of this city. But if I say it, and if I say it's mandatory, I think the people of this city will take it seriously and will act accordingly. And will be in a much different mindset than we were a couple of years ago. On topic. Anything else on topic? Going once. On topic. Going twice. It's like an auction house around here. Hold on. As the MC, I get to delay the third bid. Last call and gone. Off topic. Off topic, Dave.
Mayor, a couple of things, but on the same issue. If the rumors are true and we do have a deal on the Long Island Railroad this afternoon, two things. First of all, how much are you saying, thanks, Governor, because it takes some heat off you about going to Italy and the criticism that you received on that? And
that's not how I look at it, Dave, but continue.
Okay, that's my question. And the second thing is...
That was a question?
And the second thing is...
Can we pull the editorial comment out of the question?
What does this say, in your opinion, about Governor Cuomo's negotiating ability and coming in at the last minute to try to hammer this out?
I think Governor Cuomo's handled labor relations very well and very effectively. It's obvious. When he came into office, he had an extraordinary and unprecedented deficit. He had to work out some really challenging new agreements with labor. He had to do the Medicaid reform. I mean, he did, I think, absolutely amazing things to get the state back on a sound fiscal footing and to come up with labor deals that were affordable. And we obviously, here in the city, looked at that and tried in our own way to come up with labor deals that were fiscally responsible and sustainable and fair to our workforce, and we managed to do that. And now, as you know, pending some ratification, we have 60% of our workforce that will be under contract. Many more will be soon. So I think that history is very good, and I think this particular one it's different than any other kind of labor dynamic with the LIR because there's a federal role as well. There's federal regulations that oversee railroads that are different than other types of public entities. But we don't know for sure if a resolution will be achieved. I'm certainly hopeful. We're hearing good things. The response to the first part of your question is what I care about is the people of the city and their safety, their well-being. It's the Long Island Railroad, first and foremost, of course, the impact is outside the city. But what I said from the beginning is my hope was that if we were to confront a strike, because it was in July, because people are telecommuting more than ever before, because we had a lot of notice, because contingency planning was strong, that we would be in a good position to mitigate any impact. I still feel that. If for any reason we don't get a resolution, I think we're in a strong position to handle whatever's thrown at us. But I think everyone would breathe a sigh of relief if this gets settled. And that will allow us to keep our focus on a lot of other work that we have to do here in this city.
Just following up on that, can you give us some details about the contingency plan that your staff has come up with and what what the city's role would be if there is a strike?
Yeah, I've met with Commissioner Bratton, Commissioner Esposito, Commissioner Trottenberg. We've all gone through this in great detail. Our sense at this moment, again, we've not had this scenario before where we had a strike of one of the suburban railroads in summer, in the modern age where people telecommute as much. So we've got different scenarios. We believe a lot of people will stay home. That's certainly the first fact to say from everything we're seeing from all the data we have. And obviously the fact is July means there's a lot less traffic and a lot less usage of the MTA than usual. So one of the questions has been what would be the impact on the subways? There would be an impact for sure, but we think it would be very different than if this were happening, say, in September or October. So what we've done is we've beefed up policing the contingency, if this comes to pass. We would beef up policing at the key locations that would be used as entry points to the city where people would go and park and get onto the subway. So there's a series of locations where people would come in either in buses or in individual cars, park and get on the subways. There'd be a lot of police presence there to make sure that that went smoothly. There'll be extra police presence in terms of areas that we think might experience additional traffic. We obviously would consider suspending alternate side of the street parking to just take some cars off the road that normally be looking for parking and dealing with alternate side. We haven't made that final decision, but if we get to that point, that's an option on the table to relieve a little bit of the pressure. So we feel good that all of the agencies that need to get ready are getting ready. Very close coordination with the state. You've heard about some of the plans the state has, MTA has, the ferries, the additional buses, HOV lanes being utilized more. So we think the contingency plans are strong. Obviously, we're all hoping that we hear today some definitive progress.
Mayor, does it influence your thinking at all to see, 40,000 people signing petitions in favor of the horse carriages and just the public opinion in general, against your stance on that? And do you think there's any room for a compromise, such as letting them be just in the park and not on the street?
We had an election last November. That is the ultimate public opinion poll. I said throughout the election that it was time to end the use of horse carriages in New York City. I'm going to keep to that promise. And that's what matters. We had an election. People voted. Petitions are a part of the democratic process, and we get a lot of petitions on a lot of things, and I always listen to people's views, but I stay true to what I told the people I would achieve, and we're going to move forward. There, in my view, is not an obvious compromise. The horse carriages don't belong in the streets of New York City, and that's what we're going to move to change. Yeah.
Hi, I was just wondering, what do you think the 66 donors to Campaign for One New York expect from you in return for the $1.7 million in that donation?
I don't think they expect anything, and I would never feel comfortable if they did.
Sorry, I was going to say, over about the $350,000 given by the American Federation of Teachers a month before the teacher.
No, look, the effort that committee is structured to support the vision of this administration. The first focal point was the pre-K effort, full-day pre-K for every child in the city. That is not a partisan issue. That is an issue that a lot of people in business, a lot of people in labor believed in. And they supported us if they believed in it, they wanted to help us get it done. Plenty of people didn't necessarily agree with the agenda. You remember the original construct we had of how we wanted to fund it and what we wanted to get done in Albany. There were certainly some individuals who didn't agree with that. But those who did supported it. And it's such a big public policy change that will affect thousands and thousands of New York children for generations to come, that it's natural that some people would want to invest in that kind of change, and they did. But that's the extent of their involvement, and there's no other assumptions. Ross?
Do you have plans to take any more vacations this year? Are you kind of limiting yourself to one vacation?
I don't have a plan in place that I want to talk about today. This is the first time the family's been able to go away together for a week in a couple of years. And it's a very important moment for us, especially the opportunity to go to the hometown of my grandfather and my grandmother, and that's going to be an incredibly important moment for our family. But I can't project what's up ahead. We've got a lot of work to do, and I don't usually get to take a lot of vacation.
Now that you've gotten the money for pre-K from Albany, what are some of the next big initiatives you want Campaign for One New York to undertake?
Look, I think that we're going to look at the whole agenda and what's needed to achieve the agenda. There's the affordable housing plan and many other pieces that we'll focus on. And when we have something that, I think is important for the public to get involved in, I'll certainly say it. When that committee has determined its next step, I'm sure they'll say it. But I would say any organization that's supporting our agenda, we've put it out there pretty clearly what our priorities are for this year: the affordable housing plan, the implementation of paid sick leave, the municipal ID plan, all of the efforts to increase wages and benefits. Obviously, looking forward to next year, I'm hopeful that we will have a different reality in Albany where we can get the minimum wage bill done. So, over time there'll be more to say, but I think those are obvious areas that we're going to be asking the public to support us on.
Mayor, it was about 60 days ago that your administration called a halt to the 911 project.
Yep.
Can you talk about the review process, and do you have any updates?
Don't have an update for you today, but we will have one shortly. I'll only say what I felt at the time, and it still holds. We were distressed by what we found when we looked under the hood of that project. We didn't think money was being used well, and we didn't see a kind of timeline that we felt comfortable with. So we're in the middle of doing a very intensive review to make sure that whatever we invest in, whatever we take taxpayer money and invest in terms of providing emergency services, is going to happen in a realistic timeline and be effective. In the meantime, we're constantly working to improve our response through our existing approach to emergency. It's something Commissioner Nigro is very focused on and very expert on as the guy who brought the merger of FDNY and EMS to bear. So constant work being done on the existing system. We'll soon have a report on the proposed new system. Rich.
Mr. Mayor, are you packed for your trip? Are you packing your own bags? And what food are you especially looking forward to eat over there? What do you?
No, yes, eggplant parmigiana.
Yeah.
No, I'm not yet packed. Yes, I'm looking forward to the trip. Eggplant parmigiana is my all-time favorite Italian meal. Thank you, brother. But this is the truth. My mother, Maria de Blasio, may she rest in peace, still no one has come close to an eggplant parmigiana as great as hers. So I will search all of Italy, seeing if I can find one. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.